Welcome to English 10-1. My name is Mrs. Susan Cullum, and I will be your teacher this semester for this course. So, now you have a face to go with the course, and make sure that you email me, or we can even Google Hangout if you have any questions about this course. This is the first year that I have done this English 10 course, but I have done the PBR English 10 for North Star for this is my 4th year doing that. So I've been doing that for a while. So what we want to do this week is we want to make sure that I get to know you and that you get to know the other students a little bit better. So you'll see on the opening page that there is an introductions forum, and I want you to introduce yourself to your other classmates. There are marks for participating in these discussion forums, and the introduction one does count, and it's worth 5% of your total mark throughout the course, and you also are required to respond to other students. So introduce yourself. Now, we have a little bit of a situation when we get to second semester because some of the students are already done, and I don't know how to remove them. They've been suspended from the course in Moodle, but they're still there in the introduction form. So, and you have really no way to tell who is still in the course or not. So just don't be offended if they don't respond to you. Okay, there's other information on that opening page as well, such as a course outline, course description, introduction, and you can look at the syllabus and it will give you a breakdown of how the grades are derived as well. And basically it goes like this. Group discussion is 5%, your weekly assignments are 40%, your tests, and there's one open book one as you go further along in the course, are worth 15%. Your final exam is worth 15%. And then essays and projects are as well, they're worth 25%. So that adds up to 100. One more thing to do on that opening page there is to read the plagiarism policy and discuss it with your parent. And then I need an email from your parent saying you've looked at it. And then you need to submit that online as well. Ooh, getting lots of glare on my face there. Okay, so a little bit about the course. I hope you love stories. I love to read. I don't know about writing stories. That's probably a little more difficult for me. And it's been fun to read all the fiction this year because I'm not a big fiction reader. I tend to like to read biographies. I want to read about real stuff. So it's been kind of good for me to push myself to get into some fiction this year because we're reading a number of fiction stories in this course. So I hope you love to read. It's a skill and a passion that I'm afraid in this day and age many people are a little bit not so involved in. But reading will make you a better writer. It will make you a better speaker. So it's very wise to read as much as you can to become a better communicator. And stories are one of the ways that God communicated his principles to us in his word. And if you read in Revelations 1:3, blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written in it, for the time is near. So we are exhorted to read God's word, and it is full of stories that we can learn from. You'll see in the lesson, and I'm kind of just going through the lesson because I feel like there are students who probably learn better with someone talking to them rather than just reading it themselves. So I'm basically reiterating what is in the lesson, but I just wanted this to be another avenue for students to learn so that you can look at the lesson, listen to me as you read through it. So you'll find next in the lesson there's kind of a daily outline. And so we base the course on a 4-day week. So you kind of have Friday to catch up or finish anything that you didn't get done during the week, or maybe you had an appointment or something went on. We also have quite a few Flex Fridays in Golden Hills School Division. So you'll find that there are a number of Fridays that teachers are unavailable. So that's one thing too. Okay, so let's delve into day one. Day one is about the short story. So a short story can be anywhere from 50 to 5,000 words. It could be romance, an adventure, a western, a comedy, or a mystery. It may be written purely for escape, or it may be deeply interpretive with a serious theme. Whatever type of story it is, it should meet 4 criteria. And those criteria for a short story are, it shouldn't be too long. You should be able to read it in one sitting. So it could be 5 minutes, maybe as long as 3 hours, but no more than that to be qualified as a short story. It should create a single effect. So there should be kind of a theme, an idea, or some sort of impact that story wants to make. And it shouldn't contain anything that detracts from that single effect. And it should be complete in itself. So you shouldn't need to go on and find more information to figure it out. So that's pretty broad, and we have other ways that we can look at short stories as well. So I'm sure that you've studied a bit in junior high about the elements of short story, like plot, conflict, setting, character, point of view, and theme is also considered an important aspect of many short stories. So plot, what is the plot? The plot is a series of interrelated actions that progress due to the interplay of opposing forces upon one another. So it is the pattern of cause and effect events which must be complete by the end of the literary work. It often shows a change in a character's life. Okay? So often as part of the plot, we talk about conflict. So conflict is when 2 opposing forces meet or confront each other. So oftentimes that is a person, and the person usually confronts one or more 5 basic kinds of opposition. So it could be other people, it could be forces of nature, it could be society, it could be fate, or it could be themselves. So internal elements battling for control. So let's talk about opposing forces. So it could be 2 characters. It could be man versus man or man against man. It may be 2 sides of a person. So could be man against himself or society or God. Or it could be 2 physical forces which find expression in a series of intense actions. All right, we also have stages of conflict. So usually there's something like an initial incident or a complication. Something happens to get the story going to make the conflict evolve. And then at some point in the story, there's usually a climax where it's very suspenseful. We're not sure what's going to happen. It's the moment of maximum concentration of the opposite forces. Then there's a denouement, or a resolving of conflict and ending of the action in a plot, and everything sort of subsides. I love that word, denouement. It's just fun to say, isn't it? Okay, number 2, after plot, we have setting. So setting is, where does it take place? What is the background, the physical background, time and place? Sometimes it's not important, but usually it's pretty vital to the story for us to understand why the characters act the way they do and what happens. So setting may be revealed through actual geographical location, could be revealed through the way that the characters live or the time period in which the action takes place. Third thing is characters. The main character in a piece of literature is called the protagonist. Usually this is the character that the story is written from their point of view. The protagonist does not necessarily mean the good guy, but he is the person that we are sort of implored or encouraged to identify with, I guess. The character or force working against the protagonist or creating the conflict is the antagonist. Characters usually respond to a series of actions under stress, and the motivation of the character determines the action and the final meaning of the event. Usually the writer attempts to show people as they really are, and therefore help develop some understanding of human nature. We learn about the writer from his or her characters, and they help to indicate the character's worldview. So that's maybe a term that you haven't really heard much about. So worldview is a little bit about, what do I think about people? Are people good? Are they bad? What do I think about what life is all about? Who created life? Where is the end of life? Why are we here? That sort of thing. So you'll hear more about worldview as we progress in this course. Characters also may have an artistic function in the novel to add humor, to put focus on the plot, to add a love interest, to act as a foil for another character. So a foil is a mirror or a contrast that may help to reveal who that person is. Okay, so types of characters. So we're still talking about the number 3 characters here. So a flat character is pretty boring. They're not very complicated. They're one-sided. You don't need a lot to describe them. A stock character is someone that we would just recognize as, oh, that's that type of person. So the bad guy, the damsel in distress, the good guy in white, the evil villain kind of thing. A round character is many-sided, more like a real person. So you can't fit them in a box. There are lots of curves to them, lots of details to them. A static character is one that doesn't change throughout the novel. And a dynamic character is one who undergoes a real shift or a very permanent change in the novel. And it might be kind of sent to encourage you to live a different way. I'm just thinking of in Les Miserables, which you'll face later in this course. Valjean is definitely a dynamic character because he undergoes a very permanent change in the novel. So for a change in a character to be believable, it must be plausible, motivated, hair on my lip here. Plausible, the reader sees a possibility of it. Motivated, there is a reason for the change in the character. Timely, enough time must have passed for the change to occur. So it has to be realistic, right? All right, so more about characters and how they are revealed or developed. So how is a character revealed? It's revealed through their words, what they say, what they think, their thoughts, how they act, what other characters say about them, through their physical description, and so how they're described, and from comments made by the narrator. So the most effective ones are the top 4. The last 2 are not as effective and tend to be more contrived, but they're easier for an author to do. We can look at the character of Bong from a short story as an example. We find out through direct description that he's 12 years old, he's Chinese, and he was sent to work in Canada. You might be able to get a picture of what he looks like, his hair, height, color, his clothes, from direct description as well. But these are not the most important things about Bong. It is more important that we discover what he is like. We find he's quiet but cheerful. He sings to the cow. He's gentle and polite. He's lonely and misses his family. These last things are revealed about Bong through his words and, more importantly, his actions. A different character narrates the story, so we don't get to know what Bong is thinking. Theme, number 4. This is an observation of life that serves as a controlling idea in a literary work. It is usually a statement about human behavior. Stories are not limited to one theme. Each reader can and should form his own ideas about theme. Of course, when the author himself tells you the theme of the novel or story, you should pay special attention to that. Most good novels have subtle and complex themes. The author doesn't hit you over the head with it. Your goal and your job is to figure that out. When the author doesn't state the theme for you, you should consider the following points when looking for theme. What is the writer saying? How does he or she see life or mankind? How does the literature end? And when you decide on a theme, make sure that there is enough thought-provoking material in the novel to make it interesting. Some short stories do not have a significant theme. They tend to lean more towards escape literature. So, or fantasy, that sort of thing. It's a little harder to pull themes out of fantasy or escape literature. Mood is number 5. Mood is the atmosphere or feeling of the world in the story, as the author creates it through setting and tone. Setting is the physical background of the story, while tone is the author's attitude towards his material as revealed through his diction, sentence structure, imagery, and symbolism. The tone may be formal, informal, intimate, solemn, playful, serious, ironic. Irony is a contrast between the apparent and the real, or between the expected and the actual. Short stories tend to have one dominant mood, while in a novel, you'll see that the mood can change throughout the novel. Number 6 is the narrative manner. This involves the writing style and the things that develop the tone, as well as how the author decides to tell the story. So point of view. All right, so types of point of view. First person tells a story from the point of view of one character, and they use I. And so the character tells a story from their point of view. Omniscient is when the narrator knows the thoughts and feelings of all the characters. Limited omniscient is when the narrator knows the thoughts and feelings of one or two characters. And objective is when the narrator just stands back and tells you what's going on and just describes what is seen. When discussing narrative matter, we also address style, which is the language, mood, action, scene, and symbols. Time, flashback, past tense, present, or future tense form chosen for writing. Distance, reader's sense of closeness to the story. The distance at which the writer holds the reader. In some stories, we're brought close into the action, so we feel we are right there. In others, we feel like a spectator. So you should have the English Language Arts Handbook, and I would like you to read through pages 208 to 212, the elements of a story. So just another way to look at the material that we've already discussed here. Okay, I'm going to stop that point and we'll come back later.